From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Time for 5 and 5. Barry, we've got 5 topics, lots of college football to get to. Let's get right to it. This first one is about, of course, the OSU SI investigation. How long will OSU's black eye last?
I'm going to say 2 years. I actually don't think OSU is going to have any fallout of significance from the NCAA. I think Mike Gundy and staff are going to have some fallout on the recruiting trail. That's where their major hurdles are going to come. I think this coming class is going to be difficult. The year after, still some fallout, but I think after 2 years, I think it largely goes away.
Yeah, I give it about a year or so. It sounds like this current crop of recruits that are already committed to Oklahoma State are staying firm with their commitments. Of course, we haven't got to signing day yet. Nothing is known, but Gina Mizell talked to Mason Rudolph's dad, and he expressed that it's a little bit concerning because you're sending your kid away and you read all this stuff and you figure maybe it's all not true, but what if some of it is true? So I think there's got to be some parents out there thinking that too. I think it is going to last a year or so. All right, what about this, Barry? OU quarterbacks. Trevor Knight over Blake Bell. Hey, what were they thinking? We asked this question in our paper earlier this week. What were they thinking?
I think they were thinking they wanted to run the shotgun option offense. I think they wanted to run the offense that we've seen take over college football with the quarterback run game. And I think they thought Knight could throw well enough to make it work. He was clearly the better runner over Blake Bell. I think that's clearly what they were thinking. I think they chose an offense over a quarterback. And while they can argue otherwise, they actually have a leg to stand on, because if that's the offense you're going to run, well, then Knight probably is more effective. But clearly, Knight wasn't throwing well enough to satisfy this Bob Stoops staff. Blake Bell gets a chance, did throw well enough, and now the Sooner offense still has some remnants of the option, but it's a lot more in tune with what OU's done in the past. I think they've just gone back a little bit to what they were doing last season.
You mentioned the Sooners; they can argue it, and Bob Stoops did argue it. Ask him outright: was an offense picked over a quarterback? He said absolutely not. But I saw a comment from a fan somewhere. I can't remember if this was in our comments section or in an email, but somebody said, it's a little bit insulting to fans to hear that this wasn't a change in offense. That Blake Bell obviously is running a different offense. Clearly, they're running a more Landry Jones-esque, Sam Bradford-esque offense with Blake Bell in there. And that's fine. I think people are okay with that because the results are there. But clearly, it looks like that they were willing to give Knight a go because of the way he could move. Maybe he did throw it great in practice, Barry. They kept saying it. We kept hearing it. Maybe it's true, but we definitely did not see it in a game. All right, Barry, what about this question? Nationally, we've got some coaches on the hot seat. Who's the coach on the hottest seat? Is it Mack Brown? Is it Bo Pelini? Or is it Lane Kiffin?
I'm going to say Mack Brown for this reason. I don't think Lane Kiffin's seat is even hot anymore. I think he's gone. If you saw the stands,
he's off the seat. He's not warming it anymore.
If you look at the stands at the LA Coliseum at kickoff Saturday against Boston College, the decision's been made. There's no decision to be made. When the fans vote like that, the coach is out. So I think Bo Pelini still has a fighting chance to keep his job. I don't know that he will, but he has a fighting chance. Mack's chance a lot less likely. He's going to have to really turn it around with a team that appears to be incapable of it. So I think I'm going to say Mack Brown, hottest seat.
Yeah, I think it's Mack as well. They play K-State this week at home. I think Texas wins, but if they lose to K-State, I think by the end of the weekend, Texas might have an interim football coach. It's interesting with Bo Pelini. I think it's an interesting question, Barry, to talk about the state of Nebraska football. It used to be that Nebraska could win. They could recruit a bunch of walk-ons. They could turn them into All-Americans. They could make turn a program into something that could be a national contender through a lot of that. I'm not so sure Nebraska can win anymore to that level. It may not be capable of it. But Bo Pelini calling out fans, even in a secretly taped interview, not good.
Not good at all.
They are not. Talk about some things they're not fair weather. That's for darn sure. All right, Barry, our fun question of the week. Hey, it's been a rough week for a lot of people. Who had the roughest week?
I'm going to say Joe DeForest. If you think back, that SI investigation was so long. If you look back, when the first day it comes out on Monday, the money part of it, that's the one that had the most allegations. That's the one that had the most meat on the bone. Now, it was uncorroborated. It was a bunch of malcontents, all the things we've said all week, but there was a lot there, specific examples, specific payouts, and Joe DeForest paying for performance was a serious charge. I saw Joe before the series started. He was here at West Virginia-Oklahoma game. He was clearly shaken. West Virginia makes the announcement, we're going to look into this. I think, in terms of people's job securities, people's status, I think Joe DeForest is the most precarious.
You talk about people that had tough weeks, and a lot of them, they brought it on themselves. I mean, Bo Pelini brought it on himself. The writers at SI brought it on themselves. OSU, if you want to talk about the people that were implicated, in a lot of cases, there was stuff that you could probably say, hey, they brought some of that on themselves. But here's some people that didn't. People that cover Nebraska football, Barry. All of a sudden, they think they're just covering a not-so-good team, and out of the blue, they've got their coach saying they don't need Tommy Frazier, a legend in Nebraska circles, and then this tape that gets released. I feel sorry for those folks. That got dropped on their head, and all of a sudden, they're covering a big issue. All right, lastly, Barry, let's talk high school sports for a second. Are these OSSAA concerns valid, Barry? There's a state legislature interim study that's going on right now. They're looking at the OSSAA. Any of this founded?
Well, I'm sure some of the concerns are valid, but the overarching concern that the OSSAA is running the State Athletic Association poorly, no, it's not valid. What I've found 30-something years of covering high school sports, being in Oklahoma, here's what happens. Parents gripe. 10 years from now, parents are going to gripe. 40 years from now, parents are going to gripe. Parents, I don't consider to be much of a source. Most of this stems from parents griping. And the last thing we need is the state legislature getting involved. Frankly, they got their hands full on other things. If there are financial irregularities, there have been in the past, then clearly that needs to be addressed with the OSSAA. But they have a thankless job. Look at how much movement we have among high school kids, transfers, people pulling their kids out of school, moving to another school, moving to a school after that. We've got a bunch of prominent players who have gone to 3 different high schools in Oklahoma. So it's enforcement of the rules is a very difficult job. It's a thankless task. I think OSSAA is getting a bad rap.
Yeah, I think for the most part that's true. I don't think they're sort of the evil empire that a lot of people would want you to believe. Now, I will say this. I think it's sort of like with the NCAA in the past. We've seen some issues of, how are teams or individuals punished for things that they've done wrong? When you break the rules, what's the punishment? In the legal system, if you do this, you're likely to get this. This is the range of penalties. NCAA doesn't have sort of this is the range of penalties, and neither does the OSSAA. So it's all over the board. We've seen teams that have had to forfeit games and playoff opportunities for the same transgression that another team was allowed into the playoffs. So to me, Barry, that's an issue that I'd like to see get resolved. Say, maybe you don't say exactly what, the punishment has to be, but give yourself a window so people know that those precedents need to be held up. And of late, there have been some issues with that. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere, newsok.com, and every day in the Oklahoman.